So these are sometimes called blame statements because they sound like this.
Okay, my turn. They sound like, you make me angry. You are so responsible.
That's a good acting. Hey everybody, this is Sam and Tiffany. Welcome back to Life with Sam and Tiff. And man, we've been getting so many positive comments and just a lot of support from all of you, and we just really want to say thank you. Like, that's been such a joy to us this past week as we've read all your comments, and we do our best to respond to all comments and questions, so please keep them coming. We've done 2 relationship videos before this one, and because of all the positive feedback, we thought we'd do another one, and we love to talk about our relationship, and we thought that we just do it one more. Maybe one. Is it the last one?
I don't know.
but at least we're doing one for tonight again. So we want you guys to know that again, we've had a lot of mentors. We've read books together, and we've just had a lot of good people around us to teach us about ourselves and being in a relationship. And so we're not experts, but these are some things that have really helped us in our relationship, and we want to share them with you. Please continue to share your relationship tips with us because we're learning from you as well.
Yeah.
So today's topic is 4 ways to resolve conflict in your relationship. 4 ways to resolve conflict in your relationship. Now, we know that arguing is actually a part of every healthy relationship. Chances are, if you are not arguing with your significant other, someone is not being honest, right? Because we're 2 different individuals. We have 2 different opinions. We have different perspectives. And so it's actually okay to disagree with your significant other.
Yeah.
So this video is not about avoiding conflict or ignoring conflict. In fact, we want to say that it's about how to argue fairly, how to resolve conflict together, and I think that's the key, right?
Yeah.
Doing it together as a team.
Yeah, doing it together as a team and not treating each other as enemies.
Yeah.
So don't compete with your significant other, but rather be a good teammate to each other.
So our first topic is use I statements, not you statements, right? That is one way to resolve conflict in your relationship. Use I statements, not you statements. So what is a you statement? A you statement is a statement that begins with the pronoun you, right? So these are sometimes called blame statements because they sound like this.
Okay, my turn. They sound like, you make me angry. You are so responsible.
That's a good acting. So the reason why you statements are not helpful is, number one, if I heard that from Tiffany, it would put me in a defensive posture right away. I would have my defense mechanisms going up in all sorts of ways. And that can cause bitterness and grudge against each other throughout our relationship, right? And number 2, why you shouldn't use you statements is because it puts the blame solely on the other person for the conflict, right? There is no ownership of your emotions, right? So rather than using you statements, the remedy is I statements. Why? Because when you use I statements, you are owning your feelings, right? There's some ownership there. So it may be true that your significant other has done something wrong, but I statements really show that you're not blaming them for how you feel, right? So consider this, right? What do you say a good I statement is?
When you say like, you don't care about me, you know me. You can change it to like, when you don't call me after you get home from work, I feel lonely.
Yeah. The reason why that's so helpful is because you're actually putting a context in how you feel, right? When you get home and you don't call me, Tiffany, you are saying that I feel lonely, right? So, oh, it's hot in here. So, you're putting context and like a narrative so that the other person can understand where you're coming from, like a specific situation, and you're also owning your feelings, right?
Yeah.
So, I feel lonely, I feel angry, I feel neglected, right? So you are owning your feelings, and that's a very important part of using I statements.
Second way to resolve your conflict in your relationship is avoid words like always and never. What I mean about that, of course, sometimes we have the tendency to exaggerate things when we're so mad or so furious with our significant other that we tend to say things we don't really mean. Example, when you say, honey, you're never on time, when actually he only did that like twice or like few times, but you're trying to exaggerate it by saying the words never. Another example, you always make me angry. But not actually, it's just that it was a coincidence for you to be angry like, let's say 2 consecutive days because that person is misbehaving for some reason. But other than those times, maybe he's not feeling well or something, or is undergoing something, most especially for girls when we are like in our period, we're so sensitive. But it's actually not all the time. It's just that during those moments only. So when you use these words to them, you're trying to tell them that they can't do anything right, which is not true and very hurtful for them. So just like what Sam told you a while ago, it makes them build up a wall of self-defense,
Right.
that they won't allow you to enter or they won't listen to you.
Right.
So what's the remedy for this? Of course, you don't use the words always and never, but rather you can use the words often or sometimes. So you could say like,
Sometimes you... Oh, that's a you statement, isn't it? Sometimes when you come home late and you don't call, I feel lonely.
okay, correct. So again, don't say always or never, like absolute words like that will... Oh, it's the same rationality when, for example, at home, when of course I used to live with my parents. Even if I don't always go home late, but when my mom tells me you go home late every day, all the time, but that's not true. So I get irritated and say, no, it's not. Last night I went home early. It's just that you forgot about it. Something like that. So we get irritated when our parents try to tell us that, hey, you always do this, you always don't clean your house. So it's the same thing with your significant other. You don't want to be like labeled that you do that all the time.
Yeah, because it's false.
Yeah, it's not true.
The next way to resolve conflict in your relationship is take a break. When you notice that you and your spouse are arguing and the tension is escalating, it's perfectly okay to take a break. That's normal, because sometimes you may just need to go outside and take a deep breath and process things, or you may just need to call someone that you trust and let them know that you're just having a hard time in that moment with your significant other. So it's perfectly okay to take a break. But when you take a break, do your significant other, give them courtesy, right? Enough to say, hey, I just need some time. Would you give me like an hour? Right? Why is that important? Well, because the other person knows when you'll be back.
Yeah.
So rather than just walking out and just saying, hey, I need a break, and leave your significant other hanging, when you give them a timestamp, it's helpful for the other person to expect you back an hour or an hour and a half or 2 hours later. Now here's the deal. Trust is very hard to earn. It's easy to break, right? So when you tell your significant other, hey, I'm going to be back in an hour, you got to do all you can to be back within that hour. Now, if you get caught up in something or you need more time to think, you can text them, you can call them and say, hey, I just need another 20 minutes or so, but do it ahead of time so they can have a heads up, right? And by all means, please don't hang up on your significant other, right? You may need a break, but just let them know that you need some time to cool off, and you'll call them back in 10, 15, 20 minutes, and make sure that you give your significant other the courtesy of letting them know when you'll be back. Okay, so taking a break is another way to resolve conflict or de-escalation in your relationship. Okay?
I think another helpful thing to do is like take time to talk about these ways in your relationship so that you will have a consensus once it happens. Like for example, when you say, honey, if ever we get into a conflict, can you give me a break so that I could like process what is happening, so that your significant other will not get shocked when the time comes that you'll take a break, because sometimes you'll be in panic. Why is he running away from me? You know, sometimes like women tend to have those kind of thoughts. So I think having a setup like that, thinking ahead of time that, oh, he may need to take a break when he doesn't understand things, or he wants to think about what is happening to solve it, something like that.
Yeah, that's a good point. So the last way to resolve conflict in your relationship is actually very closely related to taking a break, and it's avoiding certain words or not saying something that you know will hurt the other person in a very deep way, right? So Tiffany and I have actually outlawed a word in our relationship. The word divorce never comes up, never, unless we're talking about it in something like this. But we decided to ban that word because that's never an option for us, right? But sometimes in a relationship, a significant other or they may say, hey, I'm gonna leave you. And that statement can be very hurtful. Why? Because it tells the other person that you have one foot in the relationship and one foot out the relationship, or it makes the other person walk on eggshells because they never know what that may come true. So, I think it's healthy for you to know your boundaries in your relationship and what word or what phrase should just take a break indefinitely, right? Should never be a part of your relationship because you know that it can really be hurtful.
Yeah, they say never make a decision when you are in your extreme emotion. So most likely it's not a good decision. So don't say words that at the end of it you will regret.
Yeah.
So it will break your significant other's trust and confidence with what you have already built.
Yeah. So really, if it really comes down to it, it's about communication. Communication is absolutely important, and conveying your emotions and feelings to your significant other is part of a successful relationship. There's no perfect relationship, but our efforts really make how our relationships turn out to be. So we hope that was helpful to you. Thank you for all your support. We appreciate all your comments. Tiff, do you want to say anything?
Yeah, I just want to remind everyone that conflict is normal. Don't be in competition with your significant other. Be a good teammate and know that you can always solve conflicts together.
And
yeah.
Thanks, guys. See you, everybody.
Thank you so much. Thank you to all who subscribe to our channel. We are so blessed to be a part of this community, and somehow we have managed also to stay connected to some of the vloggers out there, like families that are always watching our videos, and also we are showing support to them as well. Thank you so much. We are just praying for everyone's safety and good health. May the Lord bless us all, and may God help us to get through this pandemic together. God bless you.
Bye bye.